Yak Gadget, made in America, based outside of Nashville, Tennessee. Yak Gadget offers all kinds of storage accessories, quick mount motor mounts, anchor systems, track mounted accessories, even paddles. Go to yakgadget.com and get your kayak decked out for your next trip out on the water.
The 153 Bait Company, based in Troy, Ohio, make everything from plastics to custom painted hard baits. Hook 'em hard and hook 'em often. All of our baits are made to order, and all of our hard baits are hand painted to order. So go to the153anglers.com to place your order today.
Based in Santa Ana, California, Bioenno Power provides the highest performance lithium-ion phosphate batteries for the marine market. These batteries are 1/4 the weight of sealed lead-acid batteries, provide over 2,000 to 3,000 charge cycles, and a 10-plus year service life. These batteries can be used for any deep cycle application, including running fish finders, trolling motors, live wells, and LED lights. For more information, visit bioennopower.com. That's BIOENNOPOWER.com or contact dealers nationwide.
Welcome to the Paddle and Fin Podcast Network. This is the final cast segment with your hosts Brad Hicks and Josh Eldridge, where we cast our final opinions on all products, good and bad. Welcome to the final cast. You're listening to the final cast on the Paddle and Fin Podcast Network. I'm Brad.
And I'm Josh.
And today, this episode, we got a returning guest, Mr. Glenn Young from Z-Man. Welcome to the show.
The fish rock star himself.
Indeed. Yeah, you can see I got the instruments of rock destruction hanging behind me there.
I see it, man. I like it.
Heck yeah. Well,
maybe if we're lucky, Glenn will bust out a solo on our asses later on.
I wouldn't count on that.
I saw you got a new guitar recently.
I did
the other day.
Yeah, it was. It actually even surprised me because I have quite a few, and and of course the main thing is my wife's like, "Really, do you need another guitar? Do you really need another guitar?" Like, well,
what kind of question is that?
I don't have one of these.
Yeah, I don't have this guitar.
But this one was actually the last couple I bought have actually been justified. One was it was a Gretsch semi-hollow body. I've always wanted one, and great guitars, and they were actually on sale. So I was able to get a good one. I got a good deal on it, and I sold off one of the other ones I had to make room for it. Then the one I just got, we were actually down in Beaufort, spending the day down there, and we went down to Bluffton to hang around a little bit down there, and I just happened to mysteriously find a guitar store there that we stopped at. Walked in, started looking around. It was funny because they had all these beautiful acoustic guitars hanging there on the wall, and my wife looked at the one that I ended up buying, and she's like, "Ooh, that one, that's a really pretty guitar." And I instantly saw a green light.
There you go.
Yeah, because I actually did need to upgrade my 6-string. The one I've had for like 33 years, and it was cheap when I bought it. It's not, it was hard to play. It was a workout. You'd have to mash the strings to make it sound good. And I've always wanted to replace it, and this was my opportunity. So I ended up getting a new Ibanez acoustic instead. Well, it was
sweet.
And then came home and immediately sold off the Fender Avalon and got a
there
new
you go.
process.
We can relate this to fishermen because we have all the rods in our arsenal, and we have wives out there like, "You really need another rod?" I'm like, yeah. You always need another rod. Come on.
Always. What's funny is I think it gets to the point to where when you show up with a new rod, do they really notice? If there just happens to be another one hanging in the garage, do they really pick up on that?
Especially, when you have a ton of them, it's when it's in the
really
shipping tube.
This new 7'2" medium light.
The only time they notice is when they beat you to the house and that giant shipping tube is sitting in front.
Yeah,
you can't hide it then.
No, you can't. In fact, I had many, many years ago. Gosh, it's probably been at least 10, 11 years now that this happened. I had a buddy of mine. This was after I left the pier fishing Shakespeare days, and I just started with Z-Man. And one of the guys I used to work with at Shakespeare moved over to Quantum Zebco. And I was talking to him, and he goes, "Hey, do you need some stuff?" I said, "Yeah," because I got rid of all my old stuff. I didn't want it in the garage anymore. was like, okay, yeah, I got you covered. And I just happened to go on a road trip right after that. And I get a call from my wife. She goes, did you order something from Quantum something? And I go, no, why? She sent me a picture of a pile of boxes on her front porch.
Wow.
I mean, it was a stack of rod boxes and reel boxes, all this stuff. I mean, it was incredible.
That's awesome.
I was like, did you really need all this stuff? Well, yeah. I mean, I got rid of all my old stuff, didn't I? So I had to get some new stuff.
Yep. Understand
I know
that.
how it goes.
That's too funny.
Yeah. I mean, I can walk in with a new rod right now, and I don't think anybody would know if it was a new rod or not.
Yeah. Right. Well, same here.
One of my rods is like, when did you get that St. Croix? I don't remember seeing that.
Yeah. It's when your other significant other fishes too that you're in trouble.
Right.
Because then they know.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly right.
Yep. Well, we brought Glenn back on to talk more Z-Man products. Last time we had you on, we talked Ned Rig, history of the Ned Rig.
Yeah.
This episode, since then, you guys have released a ton of other stuff. So we want to get into like the Willow Vibe. Josh wants to talk about the Baby Goat.
Right.
The Cross-Eye Chatterbait. We'll get into all that. So where do you want to start?
Well, I mean, I can start with the Willow Vibe. I have one sitting right here. Because these are all out and available right now. So the Willow Vibe is, honestly, this is one of the most unique chatterbaits I think I've ever seen. And this was developed by the same guy that developed the original chatterbait, Ron Davis. He came up with this design. And what it's meant to do is to give a very rapid vibration. And it does. And it's super intense. The first time I threw this, I was out in the kayak and I decided to just kind of chuck it behind me and just troll with it. And it was vibrating into my chest because I had my rod kind of sitting across me, like this across my chest as I was kind of like paddling and trolling. And I mean, it was vibrating into my chest. It was super intense.
Really?
So, yeah, I mean, it's really cool. So it doesn't take anything to get that little blade moving because of its shape. Immediate vibration as soon as you start to retrieve it. It's super, super rapid vibration. And the profile it's more of like a finesse profile. You can see it's got, it's the eye strike design. It's got the moon eye design on the jig head, kind of a finesse style, smaller, lighter wire hook, and then that thin blade on there. And one of the things you can do too is if it starts to ride up on you a little bit on a fast retrieve, you can actually bend that blade back just a little bit. And if you do that, it tends to keep it down a little bit better. So you do have options to modify it a little bit depending on your retrieve speed. But the thing is, this guy pairs so well with so many of our other little finesse baits. So one of the things that you can put on there, I've got one of our little mini Streak 375s here. And I'll rig this thing on there. And you can see that profile right there.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, fits it perfectly. So it's really made to pair with a lot of our finesse baits that we already have. So it'll fit these. It'll fit like the 3-inch Slim Swims really well. The 3-inch Slim Swims is deadly on the back of this thing. And it'll even fit some of the minnows. The 3-inch minnows will fit really well on this too. So it all depends on the type of a profile that you want to put behind it. But it's incredibly versatile. It really is. And I've been fishing it a ton. And we've been seeing a lot of people catch a lot of different species on this, not just bass, but a lot of crappie, a lot of walleye, things like that have been caught on the Willow Vibes. In fact, the interesting place that kind of surprised me was we had one of our pro guys out on the Delta in California said he outfished the other chatterbaits using the Willow Vibe.
Really?
On the California Delta. Yeah. And that's not something I expected to hear, with that bait, only because, I think of it more of a finesse style, not a big noise maker like the jackhammer or anything else. So super versatile little bait, really effective. You can also put the Baby Goat on the back of that too. That looks pretty good.
Yeah, that's that and what are the grubs called, the little 3-inch ones you guys came out with just recently?
The 3-inch,
I thought they were 3-inch, or maybe it's just called the grubs.
We have the grubs. We have them in 2, 2.5, and 3-inch.
Okay, yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. I've right when I saw that Willow Vibe, I'm like, I need to throw one of those grubs on that. That looks amazing.
Yeah, the grub profile works really well on the back of that because that tail tends to stretch out behind that bait, and really kind of give it that long fluttering profile. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It really looks good on that. Then one of the things that we also came out with, and this whole technique was kind of a player. I don't know if you guys paid attention. You probably did. Recently on the Tennessee River Elite event, our pro, Jeff Gustafson, won that event. And he won it with a finesse technique. And he won it with a technique that's called moping. There's actually a video on that. They call it moping in Canada. It's basically a Damiki rig, but they call it moping up in Canada where Jeff's from. And they've been doing it forever. It's an ice technique. It's a vertical jigging technique. It's something they've been doing for a long, long time. And the finesse eyes is one of the things that they rig them with. So it's basically it's one of our large oversized eye jig heads, and what they're doing is they're pairing that with a scented jerk shad, like a 4-inch scented jerk shad, and they're fishing it on a vertical presentation, and that's basically what Jeff did to win that event. He had spots where he knew the smallies were held up. He's the only guy actually in that event that targeted smallies.
Really?
And it was it was a last minute call that he made. He originally wasn't going to do that. But last minute, he kind of figured out a spot where he thought they might be. And he went and he used his electronics, discovered they were sitting around these little rock piles near this one area where there was kind of a seam line and then a drop off. So it was a perfect place to channel bait. And so the smallies were just stacked up in there ambushing bait. So he was able to spot them on the electronics and drop his little moping technique on top of these smallies and limit out every single day of that tournament.
Wow. So what kind of action was he getting on using that style? What was the? I see he's vertical jigging. What is the profile looking like?
It was actually very little movement. I think a lot of people really overwork the vertical jigging. They use a big rod action and then try to drop it. And the thing is, you have to remember is when you move your rod tip, this much, you move your bait that much. I mean, it just, there's huge difference between what you feel and what your bait actually does in the water.
Yeah.
And so Jeff was using a very, very subtle motion down there. So he would drop it down there and just suspend it where those fish were and kind of use like a short little drift technique where he would kind of drift it near there and it would get near a rock where one of those smallies was sitting waiting to ambush something. And then he would just give it a small little twitch. And that's really all it took.
Nice.
Yeah. And the thing is, with the Tennessee River, a smallie has to be 18 inches in order to be legal there for a tournament. So he's catching nothing but 18 plus inch smallies all day on this technique. And that is the only technique that he employed was that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that's how he was doing it. I think I saw the video of him catching one of the bigger ones.
Yeah.
Now that you mention it.
That's how he was doing it. He was doing it on that moping technique. And so with the finesse eyes, we do them in a variety of sizes. We have a really good little finesse size here, a little tiny one. So we go from really, really light ones. I think this one is this is like the 1/12 ounce. So very, very light, very small profile. We use the same keeper that we use on our finesse shrooms to hold the bait on. And the same thing. So it's the same type of a profile that if I want to put one of our little Streak 375s on there, it's a perfect profile for that. And he was using the larger sizes with a 4-inch jerk shad is what he was throwing. So he was throwing the 4-inch jerk shad.
So I don't know if the listeners, you might have missed it or not, but Glenn just mentioned this guy dropping the swim bait or streaks. Is that what you said? Mm-hmm. Yeah, he vertical dropping on suspended fish.
Yeah.
So that's where finesse fishing comes into play. If you see suspended fish on your graph, drop shot or do something like that, you're going to catch a fish.
Absolutely. That's the thing. And I think that's kind of where Jeff had an advantage because he grew up doing a lot of finesse fishing. I mean, he's really a finesse guy. He really kind of burst onto the scene in tournaments, and his big technique was the Ned rig technique, and his favorite bait was the hula stick. That's kind of what put him on the map was that. So he's always had a great feel for something like that, where a lot of those power guys, they're just not comfortable doing that. They don't have the patience. They don't have the touch. to find a group of fish like that are suspended, knowing that they're going to have to make a delicate presentation in order to get them. These guys just want to pound the bank, power fish, throw big jigs, throw chatterbaits, things like that is what they would rather do, and just power fish and cover a bunch of areas. But Jeff really had it dialed in. When he found his fish, he knew where they were going to be, and he knew exactly how to get them every single day. And he was able to pull 5 keepers every day, and he ran away with it. So, there's the finesse eye right there on that Streak 375 again. So you can see what a great little profile that is. And it's a really attractive profile. It's a good-looking head. It's a good-looking bait combination. And so it really makes for a good vertical presentation.
Yeah, you can see where that bait would shine with just barely of a twitch of the rod tip. Like,
it doesn't take much. I mean,
no, not at all.
Suspended, I mean, any little movement at all, the tail's going to bounce and vibrate. So it doesn't take much, but a lot of guys are like whipping it up out of this sight and then dropping it back down. And
that's me.
Really, all they need to do is just suspend it and just leave it right there and just suspend it and just kind of give it a little bit of action, make it move a little bit. That's all it takes.
Yeah.
But, so many people just overwork their baits so badly.
That's me.
To do that.
I got to remember that you mentioned like barely moving the rod tip. You got to remember that your line moves a lot. I got that stuck in my head though. I'm going to remember that. Get better at it.
My biggest problem is kind of the opposite. I'm good. I can slow down and have the patience, but my big problem is that a lot of times I have trouble figuring out the depth of my lure. So like, you know what I mean? Like that's like tricky. Like there's times where I'm like, all right, I think I have a good enough weight on there, and either I'm still too high in the water column or I'm digging ditches in, at the bottom. So it's something I need to work on. It's just, I don't have like such an extensive amount of terminal tackle that, you know what I mean? Sometimes I find myself stuck. I'm like, oh, if I just had this, this weight, I think I'd be sitting pretty, but nope. Here I am clunking the bottom or floating like, halfway through. It's fun to learn that stuff though. I'm glad you shared that, because it goes to show that, like you said, there's a lot of people are usually fishing way too fast, especially when it comes to even like finesse fishing, because finesse fishing, is something that you can do and you don't even realize that you're going too fast with it. Like, there's somebody was telling me about a guy out on our local river, Brad, who just fishes Senkos out there and kills it when we're all throwing swim baits and throwing this and throwing that. And the dude's like, seriously, this guy literally throws it out there and lets it sit for minutes on end, and like, and he catches big fish. He's just patient enough to let that fish come, find it. And, but it's a good point to make, Glenn.
There's a fine line, honestly, Josh, between, picking the right jig head size in order to do that. In a situation like Jeff was in, he was in pretty heavy current, and so in order to keep his jig head in place, he was having to use 3/8 or half-ounce heads just to keep the bait in place, and in order to control it at the depth that he wanted to. When you're fishing in a lake situation, you don't have to go as heavy to get down. And I think that's where sometimes people that make that mistake, a lot of times in a lake situation, people are picking too heavy of a jig head. So they're throwing it out and it's just rocketing straight to the bottom.
Yeah.
There's no control between when it hits the surface and when it gets to the bottom. It's just a straight drop, boom. You have no choice but to fish it on the bottom, period.
Yeah.
Whereas, if you can lighten it up a little bit, you do have to play around with it. And I think one of the best things to do if you're not used to doing it is, go with some of the lighter weight heads. I mean, really test yourself. But I think the important thing is before you make that first cast with a super lightweight jig head, drop it next to your kayak and count down until you can't see it. Get an idea of what your fall rate is. So that way, when you do cast it out, if you're in 6-7 feet of water and your fall rate is a certain speed, you know how long it's going to take it to get to the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. So if you can do that and you can count it down, it's like, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now it's at the bottom. All right, great. So now I know I can throw it out, and maybe at about a count of 4, maybe I can start my retrieve.
Mm-hmm.
It's not quite at the bottom yet.
Yeah. And that's kind of what I did.
I'll count it all the way down.
Yeah. And that's kind of what I do with the Ned rig. I tend to go with the 5th ounce, and when I'm fishing deeper spots in the river that are around like 20 feet deep or something, 15, 20 feet, I've come to the conclusion that with that and the TRD on it, it gets to that depth in about 2 seconds.
Yeah,
which is pretty quick. And I always want to be on the bottom with it. So
right. And in a river situation, you have to. You're not when you're dealing with heavy water, deep water like that. You're not dealing with fish that are suspended 5-6 feet up off the bottom. And it's
Right.
A lot of times they're glued to the bottom. They're sitting behind rocks, things like that. They're catching current breaks when and where they can.
mm-hmm.
You know, they're not going to be just suspended in the middle of a fast seam line.
Yeah,
that'd be weird.
Right. So, you know, it is one of those things. So, and that's where, you know, your 5th ounce comes in handy. You've got fast current deep water. You need it there. You have a target zone. You have to get your bait to the target zone as quickly as possible. You don't want to be counting it down. Oh, it just drifted past my target zone.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you have to get it to where you want it as quickly as possible. Now you deal with shallower water, or you get into some of the side channels or things like that off of those rivers where it's a little bit more shallow. And maybe you do want to use more of a swimming retrieve in those situations. Maybe then you would lighten it up to a 10th ounce.
Yeah.
Control your fall rate a little bit more. You can still fish it on the bottom if you want to, but you're not dealing with as much current now. So now maybe you can lighten it up a little bit, go to a 10th or even a 15th, and fish more of a retrieve style, more of a swimming, kind of a jerking with your rod tip type of a style to mix it up a little bit. But in the deep holes, you want to go with a heavier head, get it right where you want it now.
Yep. That's exactly how I do it. Let's get into the baby goat. I know Josh wants to talk about it. So.
Or the goat. I mean,
the goat.
Yep.
Period. The goat is the goat. It's the greatest of all time.
I like it.
Tom Brady wanted to sue us, but we're like, no, dude. So
you just got.
Sorry, Tom.
You guys are.
This is.
You guys are like. Let me send you some of these. You'll understand.
Tom, before you get carried away,
fish that.
Right. Just fish it, okay? And then you have a problem. Yeah. No, this is the regular goat here. This is the goat 375. And the whole series was made to be a really super versatile series of baits. I mean, you can literally do about anything with this. You know, the baby goat is a great little Ned rig profile, and then you can also use it as a trailer on behind any of the smaller finesse jigs. Like, our power finesse jig, it's a great little trailer behind that. Our micro finesse shrooms jig, it's a great little trailer behind that too. Or you can just fish it by itself on just a standard Ned head. And one of the things we came out with too recently that you can rig this thing on is, I don't know if I have one in front of me here, I can dig one out of my bag. But we came out with a Nedlocks EWG. So it's the same head style as what we have on the Nedlocks, but it's on an EWG hook with the keeper on it. And so that way you can rig up the baby goat completely weedless if you want to, and still fish it on a Ned style, or you can even use the finesse bullets if you want to. But when we did the Nedlocks EWG, let me bear with me. Let me dig one out.
Those Nedlocks, they bounce off rocks nicely in current too.
They do, and I think the nice thing with the Nedlocks is it's just a good heavy duty hook. It's what a lot of our guys switch to when they want to fish a Ned rig in saltwater around here. It's a pretty popular thing to do here. We got a lot of guys that love to fish redfish, speckled trout with Ned rigs and really downsize with that stuff. And that's really what the Nedlocks comes in handy for, is doing that.
Yeah.
Cool. Oh, we're still.
I'm pretty stoked about trying that EWG out. I'm a huge fan of EWG hooks anyway. So
me too.
The more weedless I can make a presentation, the better. So
yeah. Plus those things, I'm trying to find it. Oh, here it is. I'm going to pull it up on the screen because I think you guys released this past year, right? Since the last time you were on.
Release.
Yeah, that's right. I saw that. I'm like, oh yes, I need some of those. Yep. I like how small and compact they are.
It is, and it's when you design these things, there's a very fine line between trying to get the hook gap right, but also getting the length right. because most of the ones that we've seen attempted by other companies, the hook shank is too long. It goes too far back into the bait and completely kills it, and that's what you want to avoid.
Yeah.
You want to still have some bait hanging out the back side of that thing so that you're not, completely killing the entire action of the bait. So,
Right.
here's a baby goat that I have right here. This one's rigged up on the finesse bullets, and I'll take that one off and I'll put it on the Nedlocks EWG, which I have right here, just to kind of give you an idea of how well that fits on there. And that was kind of the premise behind that. We wanted that Ned style head, but we wanted to be able to accommodate any of our current Ned rig baits with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's a big plus for me. I know for sure.
So there it is. So it's on the keeper right there, so it's not going to come off. And then you can see where the hook is on this.
Mm-hmm.
It's perfect. See how much bait you still have on the back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I still have plenty of action back here. I haven't killed anything with this hook, but
Right.
look at all the gap I have left. So there's still plenty of gap on here, and that's what I want. I want plenty of gap to hold my fish on to increase my retention rate, but I want lots of action behind that bait. I don't want to kill it, just sacrificing action just to get a wider gap.
Right.
So I think this thing just turned out perfect for that.
Right.
So
And
any of the Ned rig baits will fit on that.
And I've used some of the other brands out there that they're EWG, and I just don't like the length of the hook. That's the biggest thing for me.
The majority of them are just too long, and I think that's because they're using the hooks that they have available. We had this hook custom made for us by VMC.
Gotcha. That's cool.
Yeah,
they make a good hook.
Well, yeah, they do. They make a very good hook. And the thing is, I came from the hook industry, and so I kind of understood how everything works, and the right way and the wrong way to design a hook for a particular type of bait, where you still need a certain amount of gap, but you still have to be able to accommodate the action of the bait. So here's just regular TRD, and I can rig this on here, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Where this, once it's rigged on here, I still have plenty of TRD behind this thing. See how much bait I still have behind that?
Yeah, that's
a
awesome.
Lot. Okay, there's a lot of action still there.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to get if you lengthen that hook any more than what this one is.
Yeah.
But there's my hook point too. My hook point's right there. It's ready to go. So I have that. I've got plenty of gap left over, so it'll accommodate any of them. You put the TRD bugs on there, which is a thicker bait. I still have plenty of hook gap left over.
Mm-hmm.
I still have plenty of action behind my bait. So that's really what you want to look for when you are trying to rig something weedless like that, and you're trying to Texas rig something. You really don't want to kill the action of the bait.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a fine line there, because when you deal with saltwater versus freshwater, you're dealing with saltwater fish that like to eat things head first, and in freshwater, a lot of times they come from behind to take it back there, where that's where you run the risk of getting short hit. Sometimes in freshwater, where we don't really deal with that as much in saltwater, just because the way they kill things is completely different. But in freshwater, they tend to come in from behind, and they might short strike things.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Chew on it, like you always see bass, like spit it out.
Yeah,
bite it, spit it out. Bite it, spit it out. Like,
yeah, and you don't really see a redfish do that so much. They pretty much just inhale it. And just go.
Like I don't know when my next meal is coming. Let's just make this happen.
Right. I don't even know what I just put in my mouth, but I don't care. Where's the next one?
Another good point you kind of made was the length of the bait, and you sent me, you guys released a video today on hacks, and I watched it, stretching your TRDs to make them longer.
Yeah.
And if you want a longer profile, more action, you can stretch that, and you'll have on those little Ned locks.
Yep, you can do that. So what it does, I'll see if I can take this one back off of here. So what the stretching does, so if I take this regular TRD here, the stretching does a couple of things. It fatigues the material a little bit, so it makes it softer, a little bit more porous. But the other thing that it does, though, too, is it releases some of the salt that's in there. So when you get TRDs, some of them have maybe a little bit more salt that you want in them, and they're not as buoyant as you'd like them to be. By doing this, kind of rubbing it, stretching like that, you can take some of the salt out of it, And in the process, that also kind of fatigues the material a little bit. And now it's a little bit longer, but it's also a little bit softer and more buoyant than what it was right out of the package too. So it's one of the ways you can kind of modify some of those baits that right out of the package may not be as soft as you want them to be, or may not be as buoyant as you want them to be because of the salt content. And so that's something you can just fix and just, take the salt right out of it. The salt falling over my lap right now. I'll deal with that later. But now look at the bait. Can you see that it's actually a little bit more fatigued looking than what it was before?
Yeah.
Yep.
And I can see you just like holding it too. Like you can tell that it's, definitely more pliable. It's got a little more action to it now. And
right. Yeah. So that was one of the little hacks that we did, was that. And we did it with the big TRD. You can do it with the regular TRDs. A lot of people do it with the regular TRDs, just to make them a little bit softer and more buoyant than what they are right out of the package.
I usually let the fish do the work for that after I catch about 30 of them.
Right.
Yeah, by then it's...
he means when he got stuck in a tree and he sat there and yanked it out for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Back over it with his truck.
He's like, I'm going to have to do that, man. I'm just trying to make the action on my bait better.
Hey,
on purpose.
I actually tow my trailer with Elaztech.
Yeah, there you go. And then by the time you get to your spot, it's all ready to go. It's all stretched out.
Yeah.
He didn't explain it.
That is one of the things that Ned Cady noticed with our material, and that's what turned him onto it. When he first found the zinkers and he cut one in half, and he noticed that the more he used it, the more fatigued the material got, the softer it got, the more buoyant it got, and the more beat up it got, the better it got.
Yeah.
It was one of the things he picked up on, and that's kind of what started the whole ball rolling with all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that whole story. It was a good episode.
Yeah, it's a fascinating history too. It really is.
Yep.
And old Ned's still out there fishing all the time, and
I found
ways to modify baits.
Yeah, I found him on Instagram recently. Started following him. Yeah. I was like, cool.
He's a social media wizard.
Yeah. Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, he is a national treasure, if you ask me. I mean, that guy's awesome.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Doing it all the time and still catching fish, still taking baits that he asked us to make and then cutting them up to make different.
That's cool.
You're just like, why didn't you just ask us to make this?
It's like, Ned, why did you cut that up? You told us to make it that way. Okay. He's just always tinkering. He's always playing around and always coming up with something different and always playing around with different designs. And I think you saw in one of the hacks in that video that we just released today. For those who don't know it, we just released a video. It's on YouTube of 7 Elaztech hacks. So just different ways that you can rig and modify Elaztech and things you can do with it that you really can't do with other materials. Yeah. And one of the things that we did in the video was we rigged a tickler's backwards.
Oh yeah.
So the tentacles were out, and then we took one of the tentacles and put it over the point of the hook as a weed guard.
Yeah, somebody told me about that.
That was actually a Ned idea. That was one of his little clever things that he came up with.
I saw you guys posted it like a month ago, maybe.
Yeah, we posted it a couple of different times because it always gets a lot of different reactions.
Yeah.
Like, what? Yeah,
I saw that. I was
I'm
like,
never going to throw that.
I would throw that. Heck, that's genius.
Well, and here's one of the things we didn't put in that video clip was there was actually, and this goes back to how detail oriented a lot of these finesse guys are. Mm-hmm. They actually studied the fall rate of it rigged this way versus rigged the standard way. And it actually fell over 60% slower when it was rigged backwards.
Really?
Yes. It actually slowed the fall rate down.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Brad, have you thrown those yet? Have you bought any yet?
Yeah, I have some ticklers.
Okay. I was wondering because I remember when we originally talked about it, I don't think you had started throwing them yet.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, that's one of my favorite Ned baits. So
I think one of the more versatile ones.
You gave me a pack of them, the Blue Claw.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then I started throwing the TRD bugs recently too.
I love that guy.
I do too. This is a good little bait.
So here's I've got the OG shrooms, And I'm going to rig one of these for you backwards so I can show you exactly what we're talking about. So see if I can get this line up here. So I'm going to do this up here. So basically, they rig it backwards with the tentacles out this way. So I'm going to rig it here, pull it up onto the keepers, and then what they do is they'll take one of these tentacles right here and then stick that tentacle into the hook like that. And so there they have.
That's cool.
The setup with the tentacles out front. I mean, it's just kind of a bizarre little profile, but it's something different, and it is kind of weedless. And you've got the tentacles out front here instead of in the back, and so it's definitely something different.
Do you know what it looks like? It looks like a grasshopper or something like that to me.
It actually kind
of
does. Yeah, maybe that's why they eat it. I don't know. I honestly haven't tried it yet.
That's interesting.
It wasn't until you pulled the the two tentacles when you did that. I was like, it just looked like a friggin' grasshopper or cricket or something weird. Because then it had like the curved leg up front, and I was like, I get it.
Weird, isn't it?
Yeah, that's funny what people can come up with.
It is.
Blows my mind.
Yep. We got a lot of creative fans out there, that's for sure.
Yeah, the one that stuck out to me was instead of using the glue to hold your bait onto the keeper, you're bending the Elaztech over the eyelet of the ball head jig or whatever you're using.
Okay, so I've got this one right here, so I can probably do it with this one. So basically, what they're doing is they're taking a hook. Basically, you usually want to debarb it first. I haven't debarbed this one.
Mm-hmm.
And they're grabbing a little bit of that Elaztech material right there, and then what they're doing is they're putting that over the hook eye, like this. If I can get this on there, and then releasing it. It's hard to do without my cheaters on. Come on, there you go. Come on.
You could probably put it over the whole jig head too, right? If you wanted to.
Well, you could. I mean, if you wanted to grab, I could grab maybe a thicker piece of this and then drag it over that.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a weird little trick, and it does work. I mean, it does. Once you get that on there, I mean, it does hold the bait in place.
I'm gonna have to try that.
I mean, like I said in the video, I mean, it's one of those things we prefer to use super glue if we can, but if you don't have any super glue handy, this is definitely one of those little hacks that works. Let me get this on here. I don't think this hook eye sticks up enough. I think that's the problem.
Yeah.
We did it on our trout eye heads. I could grab one of those instead.
Oh, that's all right. I think when you did that, you showed exactly kind of what needs to be done. But and what was the purpose of that? Just to keep the bait pinned down?
Yeah, just to kind of lock it in place.
Yeah.
Because I mean, honestly, I mean, super glue works best. I mean, if you have some Loctite super gel, that's always the best thing to use.
Yeah.
Because it works better with our materials. Some super glues will actually eat the Elaztech away.
Mm-hmm.
But Loctite super gel doesn't seem to do that. It seems to really work well with Elaztech, and one little drop up near the keeper, and it tends to hold it in place pretty well. This guy here. So this one might work a little bit better. See if I can grab some material here and pull this up over the head here, over the eye.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And voila. So now you've got that piece right there, and it stretches up over that, and then it holds that in place. So it's not going to be able to go anywhere. So that's kind of the cool thing about that little technique is if you don't have any glue and you really need to hold it on there, you can just grab a bunch of that material with the hook and put it right up over that eye, and that's it.
And see, that's a fantastic idea, because one of my biggest complaints throwing exposed hooks on like swim baits and that sort of thing is my baits riding up or riding off the back of the hook, and it's just super frustrating to sit there and push down, and then you kind of like you start wondering like, is that happening mid cast? You know what I mean? As you snap forward, is that thing just like automatically back there, and you can't see it, like
Yeah.
The only time it happens, what we found through extensive research, is that only happens when you've made the best cast of the day into the one group of fish that you're going to find that day. That's typically when your bait is going to foul or come off the keeper.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yep.
The rest of the time, it's usually fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
not a
Funny how
single-
that works.
Isn't that amazing how that works? I mean, how many times has it happened? I mean, everybody out there's had that happen. You're like,
Yeah.
oh, there they are. And you make that one cast, and you can see the bait in the air, either a helicopter or something. You're like, no.
And it's like it hits the water and the fish are like, that's just
you're like,
Yeah.
"Ah."
Well, I do that with normal casts. I'll get it into the perfect spot and then not realize that there's a log underneath the surface of the water and I get snagged. I'm like, come on.
That usually happens with very expensive baits, we found.
Yeah. That's
my buddy Mike right now, he's convinced he could go throw the original chatterbait and fish it all day long, and the instant he picks up his jackhammer, he's gonna get it stuck within 15 minutes.
That's the worst, man. I've only lost one, but I was so mad.
So I'll show you another trick. This one we didn't actually film, but this was one that I actually saw in a video from one of our customers in Russia. Actually came up with this, and I don't know if this was vodka induced or what, but it was actually a really clever idea to put a little bit more tension around the offset. So like when you have a standard offset hook without a keeper on it, sometimes it can be hard to get the bait to stay on that keeper without sliding down. And what this guy did is, so he took the material right here, and what he's going to do is he takes it and he twists it like this, right?
Oh, wow.
Then comes back, and after he twists it, then he sticks it on here and then rigs it up onto the offset up here. Now there's more material grabbing onto that offset because he twisted it around the hook. See, so then when he puts it on there, then he's got it so that it doesn't slide down off that offset as easily as what it did before.
Right.
Right.
That
So
kind of
it
takes.
makes sense when you see it. It's like, okay, so you twist it around there, so you're basically wrapping some Elaztech around that hook and then sliding that up onto the offset, and it just grips it that much more than if you didn't do that.
Yeah.
That kind of takes place of a screw lock, kind of.
Yeah.
Like you don't really need the screw lock if you're doing that.
Well, I mean, you can't use a screw lock with this stuff anyway.
Right. Yeah. I'm just saying.
You know,
Yeah,
but
I've tried.
we
It's
don't
not the
wanna do
easiest
that with
thing.
things like the chin locks and stuff like that, because you really need a legitimate keeper with
Yeah.
Elaztech in order to hold it on there. But being able to do that and put some extra tension on that and then stick it on there, so now I've got a little bit more tension on that offset, so it doesn't slide down. It's actually grabbing a hold of it more than what it did before. Pretty clever idea, I thought. Well, that was very unique.
Yeah,
Something I
that is a
hadn't
good
thought of
idea.
before, but
You talk about screw lock style. I tried to do that on one of the Wicked Willow swim bait hooks.
Oh man. Yeah.
It's not easy to do that with any Z-Man product, man. I'm sitting there like pressing as hard as I can. I'm like, I think it's literally just doing this. It's just wrapping around. That's all it's doing.
does that, and then as soon as you let go, it just comes back.
Yeah, it just comes around. I'm like, I think I made it a half a turn around the spiral.
That's funny.
It is the most impossible bait to put on those things.
The only ones that honestly work is if some of the screw locks that have a centering pin on them.
Oh, it does. It still doesn't.
It's still hard. It's still hard to do that. I mean, really, we always tell people, look, you just don't need screw locks with Elaztech. The screw lock was invented to hold plastisol in place.
Yeah.
It tears so easy. So this doesn't tear. You don't need the screw lock.
Yeah.
You just need a standard Z-bend offset or one with a keeper like a chin locks or like the Mustad grip pins, to hold it in place. I mean, that's really all you need. As far as jig heads, just any regular jig head with a standard barb keeper works just fine. Just pull the material up over the keeper and you're good to go.
Yeah.
The screw lock was designed for other stuff. And there's ways you can make it work. You can take a lighter and you can heat the screw lock up with a lighter and then it just melts right into the material.
Yeah.
Works great. Try doing that on a windy boat.
Yeah. Or a kayak.
Or a kayak.
Man. Wind and kayaks.
Then
Man.
you're sitting there, you drop it and burn a hole through the kayak, and
Looney Tune style. You got like a fountain coming up the middle of your kayak.
Heat, like hot lighter stuck to the side of your leg.
That guy's out there with a blowtorch.
Right.
What are you doing? I'm just trying to rig a swim bait, man.
Yeah, man.
That's funny.
Z-Man stuff's too good.
God.
That's awesome.
Yep.
So what else we got?
Cross-eye chatterbait. That caught my attention recently.
Yes, we do have that.
I want to know the difference between the cross-eye and, say, a jackhammer, for instance.
Yeah, let's see if I can. Let me see if I can.
I have seen the cross-eye in the store, and it's funny, like, the way the eyes are crossed, it kind of reminds me of, like, a cartoon character. It's funny. Yeah.
I bought some of the jigs.
All the cross-eyes jigs have that look to them. They all have that on there.
Mm-hmm.
That's David Walker's kind of his calling card.
I've got a few of the cross-eye swim jigs. I like those.
They're great little swim jigs. They really are. Here we go. Too many boxes sitting here. I had to pull them all out of my crate just for today's event. So, all right. So here is. Oh, that's the Elite Firecrawl.
Ouch.
Here's one right here. All right, so I found one. All right, so this is the cross eyes chatterbait right here. So I have one right here. You can see it's got the heavier blade on it, and that's one of the things we did. And you can see the wire weed guards on there. That's one of the things that makes it different. These are adjustable wire weed guards, so I can spread these out if I want to. They're made to deflect off of timber a little bit better than, say a brush guard would. And it also allows you to get a little bit better hook set in there with those flexible wire guards in there. So it's really kind of made to be one of those chatterbaits you just don't want to be afraid to throw it around timber or wood. And the other thing with this is if you look at the head shape of that and compare it to the head shape of a jackhammer, they're very similar in shape.
Right.
Wanted that because we still wanted to be able to skip it well, and that head shape tends to hunt a little bit better than some of the other head shapes. So it's made to have more of that kind of a hunting action, and that was kind of the premise behind that head shape design, was that we wanted it to hunt a little bit more. So there's that. There's the weed guard, heavier blade right there. It has the standard clip on the front like the jackhammers do. The keepers on this, it has both the lead and the wire keeper, so it has both. So you can see right here, there's the lead keeper, and then there's the wire keeper right there.
Mm-hmm.
So once you get a trailer threaded onto that, it's basically not going to go anywhere. So between those two keepers, once you thread a piece of Elaztech onto that, it's pretty much on there the rest of the day. And you can see I've got this one paired up with the goat.
Okay, yeah, that looks real good.
Yeah.
And the tentacles don't stick too far past the skirt. I like that.
No, they don't. This is the 375, and I think that's what makes that 375 so versatile, is the fact that you can throw it on so many different swim jigs, so many different chatterbaits and stuff, as a trailer, as a regular jig trailer. I mean, you can basically throw it anywhere. That's right, Ralph. So you can basically throw it on anything as a trailer, but it looks really good. So that's the cross eyes, and it's a little bit less expensive than the jackhammers are. I mean, these come in around $10, so a little bit more cost effective. We have an O'Shaughnessy bend hook on this as well too, instead of a round bend like you see on some of the other ones. That was one of the things that Walker wanted, was that O'Shaughnessy bend hook on there. Very, very sharp, good thin diameter for good hook sets. And what we also did, I don't know if you can really notice on this one, but it's a pretty thick skirt.
Yeah.
We put a really thick skirt on this. We wanted a very thick profile on this one, just because of the nature of where it's going to be thrown and stuff. So we wanted a thicker, heavier profile. So this has a lot more strands in the skirt than, say, the jackhammer does, which is a little bit more sparse than this one.
Okay.
Yep.
So cross eye for wood and jackhammer for grass.
Yeah, and open water. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. So I mean, you want to throw something around cover, I would throw the cross eyes. Either that or the Project Z with the weed guard on it.
Well-
Either one of those two. But the Project Z with a Wii Guard is a completely different action than a cross size, because the head shape
Right.
is completely different. The vibration's going to be different. They're two completely different animals.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is this is one that I would really want to throw if I'm throwing around timbers and laydowns. This is really what I want to throw into that.
Well, looks like I know what I'm going to go get at the store tomorrow, probably.
Yep, and of course we make it in fire crawl, which is what everybody seems to want anymore.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah, we did the Elite in fire crawl too, and the original. So we have the original in fire crawl now too.
I remember this time last year when the pandemic hit, those fire crawls were so hard to find. And everybody was like buying them up left and right. I made a post. I was like, what's harder to find right now, the fire crawl jackhammer or toilet paper? And they're like, oh, that's a tough one.
Yeah, if you really wanted to make money during the pandemic, you could be selling toilet paper and fire crawl jackhammers.
Yeah, you could.
One-stop shop.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it really took off because it was a major player at the Classic.
Yeah.
That year. We were at the Classic. I mean, that was the last public event we did before everything got shut down, was that. And so we were there. And of course, the fire crawl jackhammer was a huge player there because of the muddy water and the time of the year it was.
Mhm.
And everybody was throwing it. And because of that, suddenly you couldn't get them.
Yeah.
The guy that won it on a fire crawl, didn't he?
He did, yeah.
Yeah. I remember that. That's fun. That's funny. Funny how that
In fact,
works.
just about everybody out there was throwing it, and we only sponsored a couple of them.
Yeah. It was insane. I remember you couldn't find them, and then people were trying to sell them super expensive. And then the funny thing is if you found somebody who had it and you didn't buy any, within 20 minutes they were gone usually.
Yeah.
It'd be like, oh, we've got 7 in stock, and you're like, cool. And then you go take a leak, come back, try to buy them online, and they're gone. You're like, what just happened? Like, it was insane. It was
really
insane.
It was crazy. It was almost like the original chatterbait craze all over again.
Yeah, it was to the point that people were making posts when they got them. Like, that's what was making me mad. I'm like, stop announcing it on Facebook. Let me search and find it
for $100.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had a post. There was I think a bid got up to $110 on one. It's like, come on.
Wow. That's crazy.
That same bass would have eaten any of 50 different things if it's going to $110 on a fire crawl jackhammer.
Yeah.
Hey, that has to make you guys feel good though.
Oh, we love it.
Yeah. Don't get it wrong. We like it. We think it's crazy, but we still like it.
No, it's crazy, but it's always nice to be the prettiest girl at the dance.
Yeah. We want to see the people riot.
We do.
That's funny.
Yep. We want to go into the middle of a big bass weigh-in and check a fire crawl jackhammer right into the middle of it and see what happens.
That's awesome.
Total pandemonium.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's nuts. And and honestly, we still can't catch up with them.
Yeah.
We're still not caught up. I mean, we have shipments coming in all the time. Each shipment we have come in, I look at how many we're getting in versus how many are sitting there on back order, and it's still not enough.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
It'll be like that. It's going to be like that for a while,
It will. It will be like that for a while. Yeah.
It's I haven't even seen one yet, in person. I've got a couple friends who might have had them, but I'm not 100% sure. But my Field and Stream here, who was where I was getting jackhammers from, when the pandemic hit, they did not get any more for quite some time because everything was so slow. Everything slowed so far down. They were like, we didn't get the ones we ordered last time, we think. And I'm like, but I'm also talking to somebody. I don't think they really had a clue if Field and Stream really ordered jackhammers or not, but
yeah.
But yeah, it was months before they had any jackhammers in stock. So I think you had people coming back into fishing who probably been out of it for a while, and then new people, everybody's trying to get outdoors and everybody's getting introduced. Introduced to this new thing called the jackhammer.
For it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's honestly, man, that's kind of what's kept us just going crazy right now. As
Yeah.
we just cannot keep up with it right now. I will say that we're probably doing more than most other companies in our category to meet the demand. We've more than doubled our employee count since last May.
Awesome.
We've added another 20,000 square feet of warehouse space. We've been running 3 shifts on our plant now since last year.
Wow.
Yeah, running 24 hours, 10 machines. I mean, we've been increasing the amount of packaging facilities we've been using, the number of home workers we've been using. I mean, we've been going out of our way to take as many steps as we can to improve things. Internally, rather than going, well, this is the most we can do. Hope we catch up. Like, no,
Yeah.
we're going after it, and we're doing everything we can to meet the demand, and it's showing. We're seeing a lot of stuff. The back orders are getting lower all the time right now. So
Mhm.
stuff every day now, which is great. But it's something we've had to do. Nobody anticipated this.
Yeah.
When it first everything shut down, we're like, oh man, this is gonna suck. All the shops are closed, nobody's selling anything. And then suddenly, I mean, we were literally just getting hundreds upon hundreds of orders a week pouring in, and we weren't fully reopened yet.
Yeah.
Because we had to shut down here, when South Carolina shut down, we had to shut down for about a month. And then when we had reopened, we had to do it slowly. We had to do it in stages. We had to make sure that we had a safe work environment. We weren't just going to throw people out there and see what happened. We could only run a few people in the warehouse, run a couple of machines. Let's see how it goes. And let's kind of slowly start to ramp up. Well, while we're trying to slowly ramp up, the rest of the fishing industry is just going absolutely bananas. And suddenly everything's just coming our way.
Yeah, because it's like they all of a sudden were like, oh yeah, we're going to open up, the stores can be open, there's going to be limited hours, that kind of thing. But I mean, I remember going to Field and Stream, Cabela's, and I'm like, it's insane. It's insane. Like how many people are over here on a consistent basis. There was one day I was at Field and Stream and they were like, letting people in as people were coming out. And I remember I was looking for a reel for one of my buddies, and they literally hardly had any fishing reels. And the one that he wanted, I was like, hey, they have the floor model. And the guy's like, yeah, it's regular price. I'm like, how are you going to sell me the floor model regular price that everybody's been picking up and probably dropping and banging against here? And
because
so
if you don't buy it, somebody else will.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
So my buddy ended up getting a Barbie combo instead.
I should have.
I told him deal with it, man. That's all I could get.
This isn't Fluger? Oh, sorry, bro.
Well, I've been looking for a Shimano Curado for a while, and I keep hearing they're back ordered until August. So I'm probably not going to get one anytime soon.
Probably not. I mean, that's right now. The thing that I don't think a lot of people understand is how broad-based the effect was from the pandemic.
Yeah. Yep.
How many different industries it affected that kind of lead to what we do. The raw materials and stuff, the shortages of hooks that we couldn't get, the lead that we couldn't get because lead was being allocated to ammo manufacturers, so we were delayed in getting jig heads. I mean, there was all these things that were going on that, that affected our industry, that a lot of people don't understand. The fact that there was stuff that, that we get from overseas and a lot of people would get from overseas. Well, there at any given time, I think even still off the Long Beach port, there's a backlog of at least 50 ships waiting to get in to check in stuff. They've been sitting out there forever, waiting to get stuff to port.
Yep.
That's little things like that just cause these massive chain reaction delays in the supply chain that it affects everybody. I think the one advantage we have is, on the plastic side, we control our own destiny. We produce our own material. Everything's made in-house. So we don't really have to deal with as many of those, supply interruptions on that front as, we do with jig heads, chatterbaits, things like that,
Yeah.
That's been a problem because a lot of our chatterbaits, we assemble them in-house too. And, well, if somebody else has, we don't do the lead pouring. That's done by somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So suddenly they get backed up, or they can't get hooks. Well, they can't get hooks. They can't make heads for us.
Mhm.
So then that causes another delay. So there seems like there's always something, going on. The little things that are out of our control that affect whether or not you can get that Corrado that you've been waiting for.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do it because probably the material that they need to make some of the parts isn't available, or the factory that makes some of the gears or whatever that has to go into that, they're busy making something else right now.
Yep. That we're in a plastic shortage for the kayak industry right now as well. So
yeah, they are.
They're saying kayaks are going to be hard to find after June.
Well, there was I read this recently. I guess there was a fire at a BASF plant in Germany that provides one of the key chemicals that plastics manufacturers have to use to make their material usable. They had to shut down the supply.
That's crazy.
So that hurt everybody that uses any type of a plastisol, PVC material, or anything like that. It affected all of them.
Mhm.
So that was, that's kind of a big deal. I think of how many things are made out of plastic, not just fishing worms.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there. Construction industry, for instance.
But there's a lot of other stuff that gets made out there.
Yep.
There's little things like that. That's when the average guy, he goes to a sporting goods store and he goes there and looks and he doesn't understand why there's so many empty pegs.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're a little bit better off now than we were, but I'm still waiting on the Willow Vibes to show up in our shop.
You better tell them to get on it. We're shipping them. I've got them in stock, man.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to order them online probably. Well, cool. I think we're winding down.
Sounds good. Glenn, I want to say thank you for coming back on, man. You're always really outgoing. Anytime we've asked you to come back on, you have no problems doing it. I apologize to you for having to reschedule last week. I had an issue with the kids. So, but thank you for, taking the time, come back on the episode, talk about Z-Man. It's always a blast talking with you. We always have a good time, man.
I always have a good time with you guys too. And one nice thing too is that I actually have been doing a little bit more fishing lately. So that's actually
nice.
Awesome.
I've been hitting a lot more salt this year than what I have in the past. It's been good.
You need to start your own podcast too, by the way.
I don't want to compete with you. I wouldn't stand a chance.
No, I'd be a big listener. Z-Man podcast.
There you go. The Z-Man podcast. Yeah, I don't know. I think my last saltwater journey was one that I almost didn't make it back from.
Well, we'll have to have you back on to tell that story then.
Oh, that was a doozy. Just kind of picture a miniature version of Deadliest Catch. The big waves breaking over the bow and all that. Yeah, it was one of those.
Whoa.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. I'm glad you made it back.
If I don't make it, they'll probably find me because I am wearing a life jacket. That's good.
There you go. Yeah. Good thing to wear.
All right, awesome. Brad, you want to take us out?
Sure. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in this week for this awesome episode with Glenn. We'll see you guys next week. Have a good weekend. See ya.
Bye.
Fishing, guys.
Thanks for tuning in to another killer episode on Paddle and Fin. Don't forget to go check out our website at paddle_and_fin.com. Don't forget to check out the YouTube channel at Paddle and Fin. If you got a question, comment, want to hear from a future guest on a future episode, feel free to email us at paddle_and_fin@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Paddle and Fin on Facebook and Instagram. Shout out to our show supporters, Angler. The Angler button and app just makes for a better time on the water and creates a virtual logbook for every fishing outing out on the water. Shout out to Rocktown Adventures, located in Northern Illinois, for all your kayaking, camping, and hiking needs. Shout out to Jigmasters Jigs. When in doubt, get the jig out. Go to jigmasters.com